Hey there, Ilongo fam! It's your man, your name, back with another video. Today we're diving deep into the heart of American history, confronting the shadows of the past. Buckle up because we're about to unpack the top 10 biggest mistakes America has made in its history. Acknowledging these mistakes isn't about dwelling on the negative, but understanding how these events have shaped the nation we know today. So grab your thinking caps, Ilongo fam, because we're about to embark on a journey through some of the darkest chapters in American history. Let's get started. Our journey begins in the first half of the 19th century with the Indian Removal Act. This act, signed by President Andrew Jackson, led to the forced relocation of Native Americans. Known as the Trail of Tears, thousands were forced to march in deplorable conditions. Thousands perished from disease, starvation, and exhaustion. The Trail of Tears is a stark reminder of the human cost of westward expansion. The fight for recognition and preservation of traditions continues. From the Trail of Tears, we move to an even darker chapter: slavery. Millions of Africans were forcibly brought to America, stripped of their freedom and subjected to unimaginable cruelty. The South built its economy on the backs of enslaved people, profiting from their unpaid labor. Imagine the inhumanity of a system that treated human beings as property, denying them their basic rights. Slavery was a moral abomination, a stain on American society. Its echoes persist in systemic racism and economic disparities. The fight for abolition led to the end of slavery, but the struggle for equality continues. Next, we fast forward to the 20th century, to a conflict that deeply divided the nation: the Vietnam War. America's involvement in this Southeast Asian conflict stemmed from the Cold War mentality, a fear of the domino effect. Ilongo fam, imagine being a young man, drafted into a war thousands of miles away, fighting in jungles against an enemy you barely understand. The Vietnam War was a quagmire, a conflict that claimed the lives of millions of Vietnamese and over 58,000 American soldiers. It was a war that left deep scars on the American psyche, a war that continues to spark debate and controversy to this day. The Vietnam War also saw the rise of a powerful anti-war movement, a generation that dared to question authority, to stand up for peace, and to demand an end to the bloodshed. The lessons of Vietnam continue to resonate today, reminding us of the complexities of war, the importance of diplomacy, and the need for a more nuanced understanding of global affairs. It's a reminder that even with the best of intentions, military intervention can have unintended consequences, and that peace, however elusive, is always the better option. Chapter 4: Japanese Internment Camps, a Failure of Justice. Following Pearl Harbor, fear led to the forced relocation of over 120,000 Japanese Americans to internment camps. These camps, surrounded by barbed wire and armed guards, were nothing short of prisons. They built communities, maintained their culture, and many served in the U.S. Armed Forces. The story of Japanese internment is a stark reminder of the dangers of fear and prejudice. Chapter 5: The Iraq War, a war built on shifting sands. In 2003, the United States, along with a coalition of allies, invaded Iraq based on the claim that Saddam Hussein's regime possessed weapons of mass destruction and had ties to terrorism. Ilongo fam, imagine a nation going to war based on intelligence that turned out to be flawed, on claims that were later proven false. The Iraq War was a war built on shifting sands, a war that led to the deaths of hundreds of thousands of Iraqis and thousands of American soldiers, a war that destabilized the region and had far-reaching consequences that continue to reverberate today. The Iraq War was a costly miscalculation, a war that exposed the limitations of military power, the dangers of misinformation, and the devastating human toll of conflict. The Iraq War also had a profound impact on American society, eroding trust in the government, fueling anti-war sentiment, and highlighting the complexities of the post-9/11 world. It's a reminder that the decisions made in Washington have real-world consequences, and that the pursuit of peace should always be at the forefront of our foreign policy. Chapter 6: Prohibition, the noble experiment that failed. This nationwide ban on the production, sale, and transportation of alcohol was intended to curb crime, reduce social ills, and improve public health. Ilongo fam, Imagine a nation trying to outlaw something as popular as alcohol. Instead of ushering in a new era of sobriety and virtue, it led to the rise of organized crime, the proliferation of speakeasies, and a widespread disregard for the law. Prohibition was a classic example of good intentions gone awry, a reminder that social engineering can have unintended consequences. The failure of Prohibition holds valuable lessons for us today. It reminds us of the importance of carefully considering the potential consequences of our actions, of understanding the complexities of human behavior, and of recognizing that sometimes the best way to address a problem is through education, harm reduction, and addressing the underlying social and economic factors that contribute to it. Chapter 7: The Great Depression, A Nation in Despair. The stock market crash of 1929 triggered a chain reaction, sending the nation spiraling into unemployment, poverty, and despair. Imagine a time when millions lost their jobs, their homes, their savings, their hope. The Great Depression was a time of breadlines, soup kitchens, and Dust Bowl refugees. It led to a fundamental shift in the role of government, paving the way for the New Deal. Chapter 8: Watergate, a crisis of faith in government. In the 1970s, America faced a crisis of faith in its government, a crisis sparked by a break-in at the Watergate Hotel that would ultimately bring down a president. Ilongo fam, imagine a scandal that went all the way to the Oval Office, a scandal that revealed a web of lies, cover-ups, and abuses of power at the highest levels of government. The Watergate scandal shook the nation to its core, eroding trust in elected officials and raising serious questions about the abuse of power. Watergate led to a period of national soul-searching, a time when America grappled with the implications of the scandal and the need to restore integrity to the political system. It led to reforms aimed at increasing transparency and accountability, and it served as a stark reminder that no one, not even the president, is above the law. The Watergate scandal is a story about the abuse of power, the importance of truth and accountability, and the resilience of American democracy. Chapter 9: The Housing Bubble, a house of cards built on debt. Fast forward to the 21st century, and we find ourselves facing another economic crisis, one rooted in the collapse of the housing market. Ilongo fam, imagine a system where banks were giving out loans to people who couldn't afford them, where houses were being bought and sold at inflated prices, where the entire economy seemed to be built on a foundation of debt. The housing bubble, fueled by subprime mortgages and risky financial practices, burst in 2008, sending shockwaves through the global economy. The 2008 financial crisis was a wake-up call, a stark reminder of the interconnectedness of the global economy, the dangers of deregulation, and the devastating consequences of unchecked greed. It led to reforms aimed at strengthening the financial system, protecting consumers, and preventing future crises, but the debate over the role of government in the economy, the balance between regulation and innovation, continues to this day. The 2008 financial crisis is a story about the importance of financial literacy, the dangers of predatory lending, and the need for a more equitable and sustainable economic system. Chapter 10: The Handling of COVID-19, a Pandemic of Missteps. And finally, we arrive at a crisis that has touched all of our lives, the COVID-19 pandemic. Ilongo fam, imagine a world grappling with a novel virus, a virus that shut down economies, overwhelmed healthcare systems, and claimed the lives of millions around the world. The COVID-19 pandemic exposed the inequalities in our healthcare system, the fragility of our social safety net, and the deep political divisions that hampered our ability to respond effectively to the crisis. The pandemic also revealed the resilience of the human spirit, the dedication of healthcare workers, the essential role of science and research, and the importance of community and collective action in times of crisis. The COVID-19 pandemic is a story that is still being written, a story about the challenges of responding to a global health crisis, the importance of science and public health, and the need for greater investment in our healthcare infrastructure and social safety nets. It's a story that will continue to shape our world for years to come, and one that we can learn from as we face the challenges of the future. So there you have it, Ilongo fam, the top 10 biggest mistakes America has made in history. From the Trail of Tears to the COVID-19 pandemic, these events, these missteps, have shaped the nation we know today. But remember, acknowledging these mistakes isn't about dwelling on the negative. It's about learning from the past so that we can create a better future. Thanks for watching. If you found this video informative, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more content. Stay curious, Ilongo fam. Go.